Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. We welcome you this evening. The time is just gone, 6 minutes past 8 p.m. Central African time. We welcome you to the airwaves of Salam Media on this special broadcast. And this has been a question on many people's minds as the COVID-19 outbreak and the various interventions that were taken by the various governments throughout the last few months. And one key question, one critical question that was being asked is, will Hajj be taking place? Now, we've seen the official announcement come through from the Saudi Hajj Ministry saying that Hajj will continue, but only with a very limited number of people who will be allowed to perform Hajj. Now, this decision has come after a lot of speculation over a period of time, and it's the first time in 90 years that Saudi Arabia, since the founding of Saudi Arabia, that we've heard about Hajj, and particularly Hajj being cancelled for people coming outside of the borders of Saudi Arabia. Now, there are many questions being raised in South Africa. We know many Hujjaaj obviously are disappointed, and also all the other role players. When one looks at the South African Hajj and Umrah Council, when one looks at the Hajj operators, and that is why this evening we are joined by a panel, and we will be joined shortly by Shaheen Essop, who is the president of Sahuk, Irshad Malek, president of SEMTA, and Sedick Steenkamp, the president of Satawa. Now, this broadcast is coming to you live, and you can view us on Facebook.com/Salam Media. In a few minutes, we will also be joined by Voice of the Cape 91.3 FM and also Al Ansar 105.6 FM out of Durban. But right now, we're going across to be joined by the president of Sahuk, Shaheen Essop. Shaheen, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you, Inayet, and to all the affiliate radio stations that are linked up to this particular program, to our other guests, Sedick as well as Irshad. We say assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all the viewers and listeners out there.
Yes, and also to you, Irshad, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam, brother Inayet, and to the brothers and my colleagues in the studio, live streaming as well, and to the listeners of all the various radio stations. Wa alaikum salam to one and all.
Right, and Sedick Steenkamp, to you, assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, brother Inayet, everyone at Salam Media, and all my colleagues on the program tonight, and everybody listening. Inshallah ta'ala, all the best, inshallah.
Yes. Now, Shaheen, I'd like to start off with you. And, I never thought that we'd be doing an interview. Normally, you would be in the studio sitting right across me. But nevertheless, we obviously have to take the necessary precautions. But the point that I made, is the first time in 90 years that we've seen a situation like this arise. Many people were concerned. All eyes over the last few months were on the Holy Land, wanting to know what is going to happen. And sadly, we've got to the stage where Hujjaaj this year from South Africa will not be able to go. And I have seen your press release as well, and referring to the Ministry of Hajj and Umrah that has basically come out, and obviously the disappointment, Shaheen.
Yes, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It certainly is unprecedented times that we find ourselves in with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. And as a result, stemming back from about February of this year, we had already seen a suspension of Umrah. Around about the middle of March, we saw a suspension of all activities in the Hajj area. And as a result, it culminated in a decision made by the Saudi authorities a little bit earlier in this week, giving indication that people from outside of Saudi Arabia's borders will certainly not be able to enter the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to perform Hajj, and they're going to have it with limited numbers. So they've also got a very, very big problem on their side. Their coronavirus cases are increasing exponentially, and as a result of that, I don't think that the Saudi government would want to be the reason or the responsible party for any second or third or fourth wave of this coronavirus going worldwide. As we know, Brother Inayet, from the onset, 2.5 million people coming in from a 6-week period, a 5-week period, 4-week period, and then culminating on the 5 days of Hajj in areas that unfortunately are not conducive towards social distancing in this particular situation, does not help the situation at all. Now, notwithstanding all of that, prior to the announcement being made by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, some countries had already made their announcement that their citizens would actually not participate in Hajj 2020 or 1441, and that is as a result of the situation that we find ourselves in. If one goes back to the press release from the Ministry of Hajj, you will note that they cite 180 countries that are infected with COVID, and the majority of that 180 countries probably form part of the biggest number of pilgrims that would converge on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Yes, Jazakallah for the chain, and I'd like to bring Irshad into the discussion as well. Now, Irshad, obviously looking at it from the Hajj operator's perspective, and having already missed out on Umrah in the last few months, particularly the Ramadan Umrah, and now Hajj. And we know from the Hajj operator's perspective, these preparations are made well in advance. And just to understand from your constituency, your membership, and how have you been managing the situation until now?
Well, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Indeed, it is not the best of time for we as operators. We've been taking, Hajj is a preparation that starts immediately after the next Hajj. So immediately after last Hajj, we as operators, we need to obviously secure properties. We need to obviously, secure these prime properties for South Africans around Mecca, around Medina, and we've been in negotiations since last year. So this is the preparation, and Hajj in particular is about 6 to 7 months of planning prior to the Hajj season taking place. We as operators and various bodies like SATOA and SAMTA have been engaged with the principals in the kingdom ever since November last year with negotiations and securing these properties. People out there in the kingdom are surprised by the sudden turn in what's happening themselves. We as operators, and some of us have been in this industry for more than a decade or two, and we ourselves are quite astonished by what we are facing today. The writing was on the wall, indeed it was, but I don't think anyone was prepared for this more than anyone else. The operators at this stage are taking severe losses, risks have been taken. At the same time, Hajj is something that we have, it's a passion for most of us. And a lot of us, and some operators totally rely on the Hajj and Umrah industry. As far as the Umrah industry is concerned and the Umrah market is concerned, people have been, travel has been terminated, or the borders have been closed since early in March. And unfortunately, we lost the Umrah season, which is the March holidays. Then came Ramadan, another big season and loss for us. So indeed, it's been, out of all the agents or the travel operators have taken a severe losses and severe, it's been quite detrimental for us, at least in these current times.
Yes, sir. Yes. And also, I think, Sedick, if you'd like to just come in, and obviously, I suppose you would endorse a lot that Irshad has been saying, because it would be more or less the same situation that your constituency is faced with.
Yes, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Of course, we share the sadness with the Hujjaaj with regards to the cancellation of the Hajj by the Saudi authorities. For anybody outside their borders, and we support that decision. It's the right decision. The preservation of life and the well-being of Hujjaj is important, and we support that decision. And of course, we support the decision of Saudi to withdraw from the Hajj with the South Africans even before the announcement was made after discussion with Dirkel, given that our borders are still closed and we don't know when it will be opening. So yes, although we are sad about it, we believe this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're going through a test, we're going through a bit of hardship. We've done a lot of work, but alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, from our point of view, we do not think that is lost, inshallah ta'ala. The work that we've done, the work that we've put in, that work will carry on perpetually, inshallah, for future. And from our point of view, although a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort is put on, again, inshallah ta'ala, we do it for the pleasure of Allah ta'ala, and we believe that inshallah ta'ala, that, goodness will come from it, and inshallah, we look forward to what is happening in the near future.
Yes, just at this point, I'd like to welcome the listeners of Voice of the Cape, 91.3 FM to this broadcast, and also Al Ansar in Durban, 90.4 FM, and in Pietermaritzburg, 105.6 FM. This broadcast is coming to you live out of Salam Media. You can view us, you can watch live on facebook.com/Salam Media, and this special broadcast in the light and against the background of Hajj and how this is likely to impact on Hujjaaj in South Africa. The panel we have got is the president of South, Shaheen Essop, and also representing the Hajj operators, we've got Irshad Malek and Sedick Steenkamp. Shaheen, just getting back to you now, if we're going to take a step back, and obviously we've had Hujjaaj that were accredited, those that had basically accepted, and with or without Hajj taking place, as far as Sahuk is concerned, in terms of systems and making absolutely sure that all, is being, in fact, the Hujjaj are being taken care of. And the key issue here is those that have been accredited. Okay, what is likely to happen? What have been some of the discussions that Sahuk has been having around the Hujjaj that will be missing out on Hajj this year?
So I think the most important factor that one needs to understand is that obviously we go through an accreditation process which is date and time prioritized in terms of our queue. We had 3,500 people that were accredited this year. And as a result of that, announcement that came out earlier with regards to the cancellation, we've had to de-accredit 3,500 people. By de-accrediting these people, they go back into the queue according to their date and time of priority, meaning that the date that they had applied, they would be queued according to that date again. And next year, the same process will unfold and the same process will unravel. Coupled with that is a refund process that Sauk is doing at the moment, where the 1,500 rands that has been charged for each Haji for the accreditation fee for services rendered in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are obviously being repatriated back to those pilgrims at the moment. So far, up to now, from the time that we had basically started this process, 600 pilgrims have already been paid back, and more are going to be paid back in the ensuing weeks. So alhamdulillah, from that perspective, that is going smoothly. Now, people were asking on social media, and people are basically sending us inquiries about why is it that we can't remain accredited for next year. The specific purpose is that every year we go to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and we have to go and find out what our quota is going to be. First of all, we don't know whether there's going to be a vaccination for COVID. We don't know what the scenario is going to be for COVID next year. We don't know what measures are going to be put into place by the Ministry of Hajj and Umrah with regards to social distancing in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia insofar as Hajj is concerned. Our quota could be cut very, very drastically, and as a result of that, we find ourselves sitting with a significant lawsuit on our hands where we have 3,500 people accredited, but possibly only have a quota of 2,000 or even less than that if this is the case. We certainly will plead our case to make sure that in order to try and reduce the backlog and remedy what had transpired this year, to try and get a bigger quota if it is all possible. But that we won't know until such time as we go and sit with the Ministry of Hajj and Umrah to determine what their rules and their prerequisites are going to be as a result of this. Secondly, Inayet, if we just take a step away from the accredited pilgrims this year, there may have been other pilgrims in the queue that would have been applicants earlier than the ones that have been accredited at the moment. So those people, for whatever the reasons may be, whether it be through finances, whether it be through leave that was not able to be done, or whatever the case may be, personal situation, those people opted to defer to next year. If you don't give those people the right of refusal or the right of acceptance, you're also going to have a problem on your hands. So the queue is built to maintain transparent, fairness, and equitable process in order to make sure that everybody in that queue is going to be given a fair chance and a fair opportunity for reaccreditation.
Well, Shaheen, and while we are talking about, and you mentioned vaccines, but also at this point in time, there are so many unknowns as far as this pandemic is concerned and the virus. And we know there's so much talk about people that are compromised, that have immune system issues. And we don't know at this point in time as to what those requirements are going to be going forward. Because, things can actually change very, very fast. And in the absence of having very little knowledge on what is likely to happen, just as far as Sahuk is concerned, in terms of your preparations to date for Hajj 2020, how has this impacted, apart from just looking at Hujjaaj, the accreditation, and obviously looking ahead at next year? I'm sure there have been many other preparations that have been done by Sahuk, not only in South Africa, but also in terms of your discussions and your engagement in the kingdom.
Well, I mean, not only do the Hujjaj book with operators and sign contracts insofar as accommodation is concerned, but Sauk does that as well, because we have to have service delivery points in Medina, in Makkah, in Azizia, as well as on the Mashair. And as a result of this, we've now had to go and cancel that, and we're waiting for refunds insofar as those accommodation payments are concerned. Secondly, if we look at all the necessary things that we would have had to put into place with regards to flights, with regards to, soliciting medicines and acquiring the medicines and the, medics that we require in South Africa to take over to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, that becomes a daunting task. Alhamdulillah, the, medical companies that we normally deal with cancelled our order so as, not for us to sit with medical supplies, not
I think yes. Oh, sorry, Shane, we just lost you there for a few seconds. You can continue.
I'm saying we've already started our processes, inshallah, for next year, where we're starting to look at, soliciting the necessary, medics and various other aspects relating to it. But accreditation and, work on the queue will only take place, inshallah, in the latter part of this year, once we are aware of what the situation is going to be in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. If one just looks at, some of the finer details that they've basically put, those people that are residing within the country, already you see people over the age of 65 are not permitted to go and perform Hajj this year. Now, if they continue with that situation going into next year, we've got a big problem, because there's a tremendous number of our queue that is over the age of 65 that could possibly be accredited. So these are the kinds of things that one needs to look at and see how we are going to best work that out insofar as, the situation that faces us.
Yes. Now, also, Irshad, just from the Hajj operators' perspective, in terms of your planning, your preparations that have taken place, and I know this is likely to have a huge financial impact on the Hajj operators, but also, as Shaheen mentioned, that the certain plans were already put into place, monies were handed over, deposits were being paid, possibly even engagement as far as airlines and airline bookings are concerned. How has this impacted on the Hajj operators?
So initially, from the onset, when the official announcement of Hajj was made by Sahuk and Durko, a few weeks back, we as the operators in the travel fraternity have engaged with the principal and the hoteliers in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to advise them that our people will no longer be coming on this Hajj, and obviously we request you to assist us with the refunds that we have obviously handed over to you. So the process has started. We've engaged with the principals in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to start doing the refund process. However, Saudi Arabia has been in lockdown and is still currently in lockdown. Due to the pandemic and the outbreak that's currently in Saudi Arabia, it's been increasing, in the recent days, and people haven't been gone back to normality in Saudi Arabia, unfortunately. We've been advised by various hoteliers and principals that hopefully by mid-July, they should be back at office and administration work should be starting, and we should be getting some cooperation from them from that point onwards. Currently, at the moment, hoteliers and the principal that we engage with are not at work. They are not physically able to do any or process any transactions or refunds. With regards to most of the airlines, currently we've engaged and we started the process with the cancellation of airline tickets ever since the announcement was made officially. a few weeks back. And these principals are now obviously looking at, well, flights are cancelled, and we obviously look at the refund process from here onwards. So we're hoping to get back to normality with the airlines, because airlines at this stage in South Africa are currently on lockdown as well. They haven't been operating their back office and administration as yet. However, we are in negotiations with them. As far as the South African Muslim Travel Association, we have been putting pressure on various airlines in the recent weeks, and we're still waiting for feedback with regard to the refund process.
Yes, Sedick, just from your side, and I know possibly you may repeat a lot what Irshad has said, but just looking at the risks that are associated as a result of the cancellation of Hajj, what are some of the key risk factors as far as the operators are concerned?
Well, obviously at the moment, Inayet, I mean, we are sitting with funds of the Hujjaaj. So between the Hajj fraternity and the travel fraternity and South, we've agreed on a process to ensure that no Hujjaj is going to be inconvenienced or is going to lose anything. So from that point of view, we've been speaking for a while to make sure that we agree on a process so that we can ensure that Hujjaj get their monies as soon as we can are able to do that. So first of all, you know, our concentration for this year is to make sure that we get the refunds, and Irshad has spoken about a little bit about the process in the kingdom and a little bit on the issues with airlines, right? So at the moment, we need to ensure that Hujjaj get refunds, and at this stage, I mean, every operator is at a different stage of the operation. You will find maybe that operator A has paid X amount, operator B has paid Y amount over to the kingdom. So whatever the balance is that we've got left, we've got to make sure that the Hujjaj gets refunded, of course, in proportion. So the first thing that we need to do from a risk point of view is to ensure, A, that we adhere to processes that we agreed upon, B, that the Hujjaj, the Haji, is up to date, is online with what is happening and what the process is, and see that we don't we do not raise unnecessary expectations in terms of time. You know, from a time point of view, it's absolutely important that we are transparent with the Hujjaj, that we brief them and tell them exactly what the processes are, where we were the processes, and see, and if we run into any issues, you know, DIRCO and South has given us the assurance that the inshallah ta'ala will assist us through the Ministry of Hajj. So from that point of view, I think, you know, as an industry, we've spoken with South and ourselves, we've spoken about the process, and inshallah ta'ala, we're trying our utmost to mitigate all the major risks that there are. But, you know, no process is perfect, and inshallah ta'ala, I believe that, you know, if we all work together, we will sort this issue out, inshallah.
Yes, Shaheen, an important point that Sedick has raised here in terms of working together, and just from Sahuk's perspective, as far as the Hajj operators are concerned, and the level of support that Sahuk is giving to the Hajj operators.
Inayet, you know, if we just take a step back, we started this process of discussion with the fraternity, the travel fraternity, back in April already, because you know, after having gone backwards and forwards to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, our counterparts over there, obviously not getting any joy insofar as you know, a decision on Hajj at that particular point in time, we started discussing, you know, the what ifs. What if Hajj doesn't take place? What if South Africa is not going to be able to go, you know, based on our border closures and various other aspects? And what Sedick and Irshad had basically mentioned earlier is the agreement that we've basically come across. And alhamdulillah, we have to compliment the Hajj operators as well, because most of the clauses in terms of their contracts indicate that if a Haji is going to cancel, there's going to be cancellation policies and clauses in that. None of the Hajis are going to be subjected to cancellation clauses or policies, except where those pilgrims have paid cash into the bank accounts of the operators. So cash deposit fees, unfortunately, is a bank issue and not a Hajj operator issue. I just want to allay the fears of the people out there as well. It is very important for people to understand that between the 9th of January and the 28th of February, when the accreditations took place, Hajj operators had to start making some depository preparations in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia from a perspective of ensuring that they get the accommodation in line with the contracts or in line with the packages that they had basically put out to the public domain. So that is in line with the normal course of business. Likewise, going to the airline companies and soliciting the necessary flights insofar as that is concerned. We don't believe that any Hajj operator would have done that, out of malice or out of any other process. So people's fears need to be allayed in that particular regard. Secondly, I think it is important for people to understand that Hajj operators at that point in time also looked at the favorable exchange rate. And that is one of the reasons why you would find that deposits would have been made in order to ensure that Hujjaj don't get subjected to that situation. Now we take it a step further. The step further is where the Hajj operators are now in touch with their Hujjaj in terms of the refund process. There needs to be a little bit of time given to the Hajj operators because this is a new process, as I mentioned in my interlude, unprecedented times, and we need to think about how these monies are going to be repatriated back once the Saudi companies open up for business in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Alhamdulillah, Sedick alluded to this. We have the backing of DIRCO, we have the backing of the Hajj Ministry to escalate any problems that may occur in terms of Hajj operators not getting joy from their counterparts in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So we've got that covered. But I also want to give the assurance to the Hujjaj out there. If any Hujjaj is feeling unsure or unsettled with regards to their Hajj operator, they can go directly to SAMTA or SATOA or even come directly to SAUC. And SAUC will mediate this and follow it up with the Hajj operator. That is our role. Our role is now going to be in an advisory role and in a role that is basically going to be an overwatch, if you want to call it that. We're going to watch over this process to make sure that Hujjaj get what is rightfully due to them as a result of the agreement and the understanding that we have entered into with the operators.
I think this is extremely important, Shaheen, because you mentioned right up front that these are unprecedented times, and situation has changed somewhat, and the traditional role that SAHUK has been playing, obviously that has changed as a result of what we are witnessing right now. And sorry, the reason why I'm saying this is I got a WhatsApp message and to the effect, and what is the gist of it? It's quite a long message, but what this message is basically telling me that SAHUK obviously, when the time comes, will they dump the operators and leave them on their own?
I just repeat that, please, Inayet. I didn't catch that last bit.
I said, this message just basically talks about, when it's crunch time, will SAHUK dump the operators and leave them on their own?
Dump the operators and leave them on their own? We don't believe that we'll be doing that, because I think everybody is involved in making sure that the Hujjaj get what is rightfully theirs. Let me just be very, very clear. People out there need to understand, when an operator gets accredited for Hajj every year, that Hajj operator must go through a set of procedures and an application structure that allows him or her to become a Hajj operator. Within that process is a code of conduct that the operator signs between themselves and SAUC, as a result of which their conduct now needs to be monitored and needs to be looked at in terms of that process. We will come down on operators like a ton of bricks who do not comply with processes that we have agreed to, and we will compliment operators, where operators have done a fantastic job. I'll give you an example. I'm not going to name them, but there are 2 or 3 operators already who have repaid, if not 100% of the fees of the accommodation from the Hujjaj back to them, up to 80 or 90%. The only thing that is still being waited for is the airline companies to basically give, a refund policy or a voucher policy insofar as that is concerned. So we have to complement those, but we will work with everybody to ensure that the process is going to be completed.
Yes, Irshad, and just talking about the airline companies, and we know airlines right across the entire world have basically been grounded as a result of the pandemic, because that is an issue that will possibly still take some time to resolve. But also at the same time, as far as your members are concerned, what sort of regular communication is going out to the Hujjaj who were accredited, who had accepted, and possibly even those who had paid some monies in?
So ever since the onset or before the lockdown, our members and the center members and most of the members or the Hajj operators have been sending communication out to the Hajj database or to the Hujjaj, prior advising them up to what's happening at that point before lockdown. Obviously, in Ramadan we had communication going out as well to the Hujjaj, and prior to just around in Shawwal, we also sent some communication out to the people, updating them and advising what's happening. Currently, in the last week or so, and last 2 weeks since we had the official news regarding Hajj being cancelled, there has been some disappointments and people that come in and advise us and showed us disappointment. However, we had to respect Sahub, who is the regulator, and also DIRCO in the decision making for the best interest of the Hujjaj. So there has been a widespread of communication from the operators and all the operators that fall under the travel fraternities, either SATUA or SAMTA, and we've been communicating this message loud and clear. As far as the refunds process is concerned, all Hujjaj have been communicated at this stage, at this point, as to what they're going to be what's going to be the refund process from here onwards of the announcement, official announcement of Hajj being cancelled. So every pilgrim or every Hujjaj that was scheduled to leave, whether it was on the 22nd of June, the 25th of June, or the earliest departures, have been communicated up to last week, I'm sure already, that the refund process and what's going to be taking place. Currently at the moment, and just to add to what Shaheen has said earlier, yes, there are 2 or 3 operators that have been engaged with refunds in South Africa. However, every agent's position is currently different, and no agent's position is the same. An operator could have been outlaid an X amount of money in the kingdom, and he could have been obviously saving the Mutamirin or the pilgrim from paying the exorbitant exchange rate fluctuation or other costs. And that agent currently in South Africa may not have been in the position that other operators are in South Africa with, where they are not committed to the kingdom. So everyone's position, every operator's position is different. We as SAMTA have been mandated in meeting with our members, and so has SATO as well, engaged in various meetings with regards to the refund process. And whatever fund, we have come to a decision, to whatever funds we have collected with regards to Hajj especially, we had to obviously return these funds back to the Hujjaj, and whatever funds we are expecting back, when that refund process takes place, we will start the refund process with that or the balance outstanding as well. So yes, there have been members that have been started the refund process, but like I said, everyone's position is different in this game.
Yes, at this point, I just want to remind listeners in fact, on the various platforms of Salam Media and also Al Ansar in Durban, Pietermaritzburg, and Voice of the Cape in Cape Town. We do have a WhatsApp number 061 766 0355. We will take some of your questions via WhatsApp. I'll repeat the number 061 766 0355. Sedick, from the Hajj operator's perspective, and we know the economy has taken a huge knock, it's taken a hammering right across the entire world. And as far as Hajj operators are concerned, in terms of financial viability going forward, are Hajj operators at risk of closing down? Sedick?
Was it a question to me?
Yes, it was to you. Yes.
Yes, of course. With regards to a drop in business, from a Hajj and Umrah point of view, that's not happening at the moment. So as a TOA, we've had discussions with our members and at alternative models at the moment as to how we can ensure sustainability going forward. So those are things that we are talking about. We are looking at alternative measures to get income at the moment. there are certain measures that government is put in place that the person can apply to with the COVID-19 assistance that they are giving to you. Yes, these are things that we are, immensely and hugely aware of, and we are looking at to make sure that from a governance point of view, that our companies remain sustainable as it is. I mean, going forward, of course, in terms of accreditation and in terms of our IATA obligations, very, very strict. And people don't live up to their financial capabilities. You run into problems with IATA as well, and IATA at the moment being one of the requirements of Saudi to become a Hajj operator. So these are things that we are acutely aware of, and we're wanting to make sure that every company remains sustainable going forward. So inshallah, yes, it is getting our attention as it is at the moment.
If I may just add to that, Brother Inayet, just to add to what Sedick has said as well, we as the travel fraternity and we as the governing body, Santa and Setua, we are like watchdogs as well, and that's what our function is there for. So the members affiliated to our associations, they're quite strong, and obviously we see them quite strong in the near future as well. Just to give the public out there a surety that our members, from a viability point of view, they are quite strong, and I'm sure Sauk did their research when accrediting these operators. There's various sureties and guarantees that we as operators are lodged with, not just in South Africa, but out there in the kingdom as well. So we have commitments, and most of us operators are not in this industry and this game since a year or two. We've been in the industry for a decade or two already.
Yes, shukran for that, Irshad. Shaheen, I've got a few questions that have come up, and well, this one is more of a comment which says, Salam, the way forward for all South Africans is to embrace the reality and stay steadfast on the regulatory sahuk, as the efforts are excellent in ensuring the very best for the program. I must also commend Semta and Satoa for being on the forefront in disseminating information to the Hujjaaj, and that comes from Shoaib Mahmoudi. And this is now a question for you, Shaheen. How much money does Sahuk have in its reserve funds, and how can this be utilized to offset penalties that Hujjaaj will be charged due to cancellations?
I think, that is for another discussion in terms of our reserve funds, because we're talking about Hajj cancellation here. We're not talking about our reserve funds. But let's talk about, cancellation. There's no cancellation policy that is in place for Hujjaaj, except, as I mentioned earlier, where a Haji has paid in monies in cash into a bank account of a Hajj operator, and the bank charges a cash deposit fee. The operators have all unanimously come back indicating that there is no cancellation for any ground arrangements. People will be subjected to whatever the airline companies are doing, and operators who are basically in touch with these airline companies are trying their utmost to make sure that there is going to be no cancellation fee that is implied on any tickets that may have been issued.
Right, and the next one obviously is for either Irshad or to Sedick, and this comes from Anisa from Crosby, saying that our operator has advised that our money has been invested in Saudi Arabia, and we, the Hujjaj, will have to wait for the money to be refunded to them first before they refund us. We have to date not received notification on how long this process takes and how long will we have to wait for. What happens to us that we have been laid off from work and require the money ASAP to maintain a livelihood? Now, Irshad, I know you touched on that briefly in terms of the waiting period, and because
Inayet,
the situation.
Can I just come in here, Inayet? I think Anisa must get in touch with Sauk before you get the travel fraternity to respond, because if she says her Hajj operator has basically deposited money or put money into an investment into Saudi Arabia, that is a major problem from a perspective of where we sit, because monies that would have been paid over to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia should have been done in the point of a deposit to a hotel or for a building in Azizia. There is no way that the Hajj operator was given the rights or the privilege to make any deposits for investment purposes into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So please, the lady in question, send your email to info@sahuk hajj.org.za. Mark it for the attention of the Secretary General, and we will take up this matter with you and the Hajj operator. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah for the chain, Irshad.
Well, indeed, just to reiterate what Shaheen has said, there's certain protocols and certain SAUC as a regulator are welcoming people that are obviously being given told otherwise, that you cannot get any access to any of your funds back, or you will not be getting any funds back in the near future. So there is a system that is in place, and for Hujjaj and for the people that have paid agents deposits, you should either get in touch with SAUC at info@sauk.org.za, or you're more than welcome to contact either SAMTA or any one of our affiliates are responsible, otherwise SATUA as well.
Yes, and the next one, Irshad, is for you as well, and this is specifically directed at you, where it says, Assalamu alaikum, Jazakallah for the opportunity. Please inquire from Irshad Malek. Number one, why has World of Travel only undertaken to pay partial refunds up to 50% for accommodation? What does it mean to pay partial refunds? Will I get 50% of my deposit or 50% of the value of my accommodation?
Okay, so just to explain that, Brother Inayet, is that obviously my commitment to the kingdom is X amount, and the other 50% is my commitment to the kingdom. So in simple layman terms, or in English, we'll say, we are committed to pay you 50% immediately, because that's what I'm accessible right now across the board to pay all the Hujjaj across the board. And the other 50% will be paid when the refund process comes back from Saudi Arabia.
Yes, and just following up from that from the same listener with regard to airline refunds, and I know you touched on it briefly, Irshad, where the listener says it's been more than a week that the airlines knew of the cancellations, and they would have obviously known it could have been a possibility. Have they had no feedback if they will refund or not? Jazakallah khair.
Well, just to touch on that, most of the airlines, like I said earlier, the administration offices are still locked down. Not everyone is at work. This is business unusual. And most of the airlines, administration and back offices, like in Saudi Arabia, are not at work. Like the services of Saudi, like the services of other airlines, like Emirates Airlines. These institutions or these airlines are not at work as yet. So we've been engaged in constant communication recently in the last 2 weeks with regards to cancellation and refund process. We're still awaiting a response with regards to this. And we've been communicating this message to the Hujjaj already. So the question that's been asked to you has been already, given to the Hujjaj or given to the pilgrim already, and advised them as well. Remotely, currently, our operation is running. We are running remote operations. So she's more than welcome to get in touch with me to get any more clarity on this issue as well.
Yes, and the next question, and perhaps Shaheen, if you could just comment, and also one of the either Sedick or Irshad can address this issue. And we know what the RAN has been doing, the exchange rate. And what the listener wants to know is, for those who have already paid deposit or fully, there will be some exchange rate benefit given that the RAN has weakened. When refunds are processed, what will happen to the additional funds? Will this be reimbursed to Hujjaj after bank fees, etc.? And if exchange rates were the opposite, there would be a loss and Hujjaj would bear the cost. In the current case, they should be attributed the profit.
Well, I think if one looks at it, that is a discussion that they're going to have with the operator, insofar as that is concerned. Because once the monies are repatriated back, only then can an operator obviously determine what the benefit may have been in that particular regard. So I can't answer that at this point in time because there's no tangibility on the table.
If I can just comment on that as well, Inayet.
Yes, Sedick, go ahead.
You know, the rand dollar is extremely volatile as it is at the moment, and I must agree with Shaheen. We don't know what's going to be, when the money is going to come back, what the exchange rates are going to be. Yes, of course, the buying rate, if you get your dollars or your reals back from this side, you're getting a lesser amount. You, for example, pay $17.50 today for your dollar. If you have to buy it back, you're probably only going to get $16.20 from the bank. So you're getting your buying rate is always much less, and we don't know what is going to happen at the time. So inshallah ta'ala, I think from our point of view, I think we will be fair with the Hajj, and I think that is what needs to get out here. Inshallah, the Haji will get all their money back.
Yes, Shane, I know you've addressed this issue right up front, and perhaps the listener may have not got what you had articulated earlier on in terms of the 2020 Hajis. Why do they have to go back into the waiting queue? Just very quickly, Shane.
I think the most important factor that one needs to consider is the fact that we don't know what the quota is going to be next year. We don't know what restrictions are going to be placed upon us by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia insofar as a COVID situation is concerned or a post-COVID situation is concerned. So therefore, in order to ensure that everybody has an equitable and transparent chance of reaccreditation in the queue, everybody goes into the queue according to their date and time of priority, and the accreditation will unfold once we know what our quota for South Africa is going to be. As mentioned earlier, if we have 3,500 people accredited and our quota is changed to 2,000 next year, we sit with 1,500 people who are in an accredited state that unfortunately will not have a visa. And that becomes a very, very big problem to try and manage at that particular point in time.
Right, and the next one for the Hajj operators, again, please let us know what is the percentage we can be refunded now and the percentage we need to wait for. We have sent our request for refund 3 weeks ago, and all we get is an acknowledgement of receipt and nothing else.
If I can come in here, Inayet, I think the listeners must understand that every Hajj operator is in a different position. For example, as I said at the beginning, Hajj operator A might have paid 10% over, and then he'll be in position to refund 90%. Hajj operator B might have paid 50% over and is in a position to pay over the other 50%. And Hajj operator C might not have paid anything over, and he can refund everything to the Hajj. So it entirely depends what the level of business or business activity the particular Hajj operator is in. From a Setawa point of view, we are monitoring the situation with our members, and from our own governance structures, we want to ensure that members do the right thing in terms of whatever monies they have that's available in South Africa, that can be refunded to the Haji. But every operator would find themselves in a different position. And of course, South, on the other hand, also have a governance role, oversight role, as Shaheen is saying. And so from that point of view, there's monitoring from Setawa, indeed from Center as well, and from South in terms of paying monies back what people are sitting with at the moment.
Inayet, if I can just come in here just to...
Go ahead, Shane.
Sorry about that. I think it's important for people to understand that if a Haji has written to an operator or submitted a claim to an operator 3 weeks ago, and all they've received is an acknowledgement on that and not a single word back, the Haji must now step it up a notch and come to SAOC and basically write to SAOC, and SAOC will follow up in that particular regard. Remember, we are in the oversight role. We can only see what is happening because we don't have people sitting in Hajj operator offices 24/7. But we are reliant on the pilgrim to come back to us if that pilgrim has not been effectively communicated to as a result of this process, so that we can take it up with SAMTA and Setawa as well as take it up with the individual operator. There's something else before you go forward that I just want to make sure we don't forget. Any Haji who is solicited by an operator to leave funds with that Haji, with that Hajj operator until next year, must please report it to SAOC. Our code of conduct does not permit that because Hajj operators are not a deposit-taking institution. They are not permitted to keep your funds for 12 months until the next Hajj. It is your money. You take the money back. You put the money in the bank. You get your return from the bank. And inshallah, when you are accredited again, you pay the money back over to the operator. I think it is imperative for people to understand that because we're getting noises within the community that Hujjaj are being asked to leave their money with the Hajj operator.
Shane, just a suggestion, and I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm listening to what Irshad and Sedick are saying. In terms of providing some sort of guidance or guidelines to Hujjaj in the form of a communication, because we know what some of the, or most of the common issues or the common concerns that are going to be raised by the Hujjaj? Would it not be an idea to get some sort of communication providing guidelines to Hujjaj so, they know exactly what to do and who to call?
Certainly, we have put that out already, in our communications prior to us making an official announcement after meeting with Durko. There has been communication with, the Hujjaj insofar as what the procedures would be in terms of you wanting to get a refund when the announcement is made. But we can certainly reiterate that and put it back out on social media to make sure that Hujjaj are au fait with the process.
Yes, and Irshad, the next one says a ton of bricks. Why don't operators have fidelity insurance like all other travel agencies have to cover them for precisely these kind of events, ensuring that travelers are not compromised?
Well, in certain instances, fidelity insurances is something that we would consider. Like I said, this is business unusual. We as a travel fraternity are looking deeply into various, opportunities to safeguard ourselves from this moment onwards. Never in the history did you ever think of something like this happening. A fidelity insurance also is something that we will be considering. And I'm sure with the way forward from here onwards, it will be something that we as operators will welcome soon, inshallah.
Well, inshallah. I see the time is just gone 3 minutes to 9, and I'm going to just go around very quickly. Sedick, you've got a minute. If you could just round up any other issues or anything else you wish to add.
Yeah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, Jazakallah for the opportunity to speak to the listeners. Let me say and just make an appeal to, Hujjaj, accredited Hujjaj out there, that we're asking just for a little bit of sabr, of course, for your du'as as well, whilst we're working on this problem. And inshallah ta'ala, all our member companies, indeed from SEMTA and SATOA, are committed to ensure that we get your funds back, inshallah ta'ala, that your funds are safeguarded, and that inshallah ta'ala, that we will make sure that as little inconvenience as possible is covered. But I must stress at the moment, people are asking for timelines. Unfortunately, we are not able to commit exactly on times and dates, but the commitment that we are giving to you is that we are working on it as fervently as possible, and we're asking just for a little bit of sabr, inshallah.
Inshallah. And Irshad, final thought from you?
On behalf of the South African Muslim Travel Association and from the affiliations to our association, we like to obviously welcome those pilgrims that are having any difficulties with our members that are not responding to you or haven't been communicating any messages to you. You're more than welcome to contact my offices or contact me directly, or even so contact Sahuk directly. And we will we know that our members are quite secure in what they're going to be executing from this moment onwards. The Hujjaj, this is an amana and this is the trust, and this is something that we've been doing for many, many years as well. Hajj is something that I'm quite passionate about. My members and the affiliation that we are, and with all due respect, SATOA members as well. We have secured your funds in the kingdom, or we have secured your funds in South Africa, and we will start the processes, in fact, as soon as possible, and try to expedite at least the refund process for all the Hujjaj as well.
Yes, and just to remind our listeners that tonight's stream is available on Salam Media's Facebook page and also on Salam Media's YouTube page. So if you have missed out on any or part of the program, all of it will be available on both the Facebook and the YouTube pages of Salam Media. Shaheen, final thoughts?
First of all, we'd like to just thank Salam Media for arranging the platform on behalf of the board of Sahuk. It certainly helps, for us to get the right messages out to the public, ensuring that we reduce the anxiety levels. Our thoughts go out to every single Hujjaj out there that was accredited, who yearn to perform Hajj. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from you your niyyah, inshallah, and grant your Hajj maqbool wa mabrur, even if you did not grace the plains of Arafah, inshallah. But most importantly, we appeal to every single one of the people in South Africa to make dua for the upliftment of this COVID-19 pandemic from the world, in order for us
Ameen.
all to look at ourselves and look at our fellow brethren in a manner that is going to be conducive to a better life for all, inshallah. We make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for all the Hajj operators to return the funds as fast as possible to the Hujjaj. And inshallah, in the ensuing year, Allah ta'ala makes it easy for every single one who is going to perform Hajj, inshallah. Jazakallah once again, Inayet. Jazakallah to your affiliate radio stations. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And Amin to your du'as, Shaheen, and also to Sedick, Steenkamp, and Irshad Malek. Jazakallah for your presence and your time with us on this special broadcast. And also to the listeners of Al-Ansar in Durban, 90.4 FM, Peter Maritzburg, 105.6 FM, and Voice of the Cape, 91.3 FM out in Cape Town. It's been an absolute pleasure being in your company, and of course, all the listeners on the various platforms of Salam Media. So from myself, Inayet Wadee, and the entire team that has actually put this program together, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.